Hill. And Mark, let me welcome you to the program because something that was announced a few days ago was the sailing of the USS Nimitz.
That's true. Good day, everyone. Listeners out in UK column land. Hello, guys. Yes, the USS Nimitz, about a 50-year-old aircraft carrier, reportedly is going to be rerouted from Asia to the Middle East. And there are various concerns across left wing, right wing, centrist websites, so many it's incredible, that the Nimitz will be, quote unquote, the next USS Liberty. And the thinking is that it's an old ship being prepared for being decommissioned, which evidently will cost up to $1 billion to fully tear down because it's a nuclear powered ship. And so the thinking is that why not put this derelict out there? Israel might pull off a false flag and attack the ship, and that would much more solidify and justify getting the U.S. involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran. So in other words, will history repeat itself? That's the huge question being asked. And it's ironic that this came out right about the time that my interview with Phil Turney, the USS Liberty survivor, was released on UK Column News. And we're showing that screen here, the screenshot from the article, the interview that's now posted at ukcolumn.org. And we can listen here momentarily what Phil had to say about why he felt that the USS Liberty was attacked, what the ultimate motive was, and then relate that again to some of the theories and concerns about the Nimitz. So let's go ahead and go with that. It's incredible to me, given what you described, that they can still try and claim that this was a case of mistaken identity when we both know better, as do your fellow survivors, and that evidently, and correct me if I'm wrong, they wanted to sink the Liberty and blame it on the Arab forces during that 6-day war in the Mediterranean. That was the evident goal, correct?
Yes, that was the goal, Mark. And we were probably set up a year in advance to have this happen. It was all pre-planned. They wanted to sink our ship, blame it on the Arabs, and get us into nuclear war. We had sacked aircraft on the way to come bomb Cairo even before we were attacked. The aircraft were in the air. The aircraft were in the air even before we got attacked. So Lyndon Johnson, Levi Eshkol, the Prime Minister of Israel, and a handful of others in both governments did this, and to get us into World War III. That was the whole plan. They wanted all of it. They wanted all the land. What's going on now in Gaza wouldn't be happening right now if our ship would have sunk. They'd have taken it all then. With the help of the United States, they'd have got it all.
Yes, indeed. Interesting stuff. So, of course, the parallel that's being considered is that the ship would be attacked, the Nimitz would be attacked by Israeli forces and blamed on Iran, thereby to escalate the war, possibly pointing toward, heaven forbid, something approaching World War III. At any rate, there's various sources, including the U.S. Naval Institute news here, that have confirmed that the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz is sailing to the Middle East. There was even an earlier article, I don't know if we still have that slide, even back in March, before the conflict reared its ugly head. There was already news that the Nimitz was going to be decommissioned for practical reasons. And at any rate, this national interest item came up, and it's a very kind of strange article in the way that it's written. They're claiming to have solid knowledge, absolute reliable knowledge that no, the USS Nimitz will not be destroyed in a false flag operation, which is pretty ridiculous. It goes on to say baseless social media theories, they say, claim the USS Nimitz will be sacrificed in a false flag attack, but experts dismiss these as fear-driven misinformation amplified by viral algorithms. But all the people who are concerned about this are saying is that, like with the Liberty and the Maine in Havana Harbor that sparked the Spanish-American War, Pearl Harbor, World War II, Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam. They're simply saying that there's historical precedent for false flag operations to start major conflicts. So for someone to say in advance, proactively, that this won't happen is really quite ridiculous. There's really no way around it. And that same national interest piece happened to cite, and there's so many things that could be cited, but it happened to cite this X piece by a James Lee. Many know Israel mistakenly, quote unquote, attacked the USS Liberty in 1967. Fewer know, he claims, it may have been part of a CIA Mossad false flag op called Project Cyanide to spark regime change in Egypt. With the USS Nimitz headed to Iran, you have to wonder, is history repeating itself? So that's the widely asked question right now, guys. Not a ridiculous question at all, as the national interest so wrongly implied, but a very important thing to pay attention to. And it's just ironic this came out right when my interview with Phil Turney came out, which, by the way, is getting a lot of reads right now, probably more than it normally would have received. So that's good news in that sense. So back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, the question is, can they actually, even if they had this planned, can they actually pull it off now that this conversation is happening quite as publicly as it is?
I hope it would make a difference if indeed that is one of the sort of nefarious plans in the back pocket of these two bad actors, the United States and Israel, also Britain and its allies too. We can't leave NATO out of this. But